Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we are learning Nazir, page 29, which teaches us that when it comes to a father, he has the exclusive right to be able to make his child a Nazir. Now, when I say a child, there's a discussion if he's below the age of 12 years old or possibly below the age of bar mitzvah, which is 13 years old. But certainly when his child is a teenager or 18 years old, the father no longer has the ability to make him into a Nazir. And the question is why? Why do we allow this father to make this child into a Nazir? So one answer that we presented before is there's something called Halacha Moshe Sinai. It's simply a law. We may not understand the meaning behind it, but that's something in which we received at Har Sinai, at Mount Sinai, and therefore that's the law, that the father has the right to be able to do this to his son. He can make him into a Nazir. There's a second interpretation that says you're allowed to do it because you're allowed to teach your child to do mitzvos. And the law of being a Nazir is one of the 613 mitzvos, and therefore you're allowed to do this. You're allowed to teach him. And therefore, for that reason, it's not just being a Nazir, but vows in general. To teach your child to maybe make a vow to bring an offering in the Beis HaMikdash, in the temple, that would also be something which is part of chinuch, part of education. And there is a distinction. When it comes to a Nazir, interestingly enough, even though the father has this right to put this on his child, interestingly enough, the child can refuse it. He can refuse it by saying, I'm not interested. And another way is even if he doesn't say anything, but one of his relatives steps up and says, I don't want your child. It's not my child. I'm a relative, but I don't want you to do this for your child. I don't want your son to become a Nazir. And on this, the Talmud wonders, what right does a relative, even though he may be a relative, but he's not the parent, what right does this relative have to step up and say, this is how you want to do chinuch, to educate your child? No, I don't want you to educate your child. And therefore, you want him to be a Nazir? You want to teach him these laws? I'm not going to allow you. I'm going to refuse. And that's the law. His refusal actually works. He's no longer a Nazir. On this, the Talmud gives an unbelievable answer. The Talmud tells us that kol chinuch de lo choshev lo nichale. Any education which is not good for this child, that relative has the right to step up and to speak out. What exactly is so bad about being a Nazir? So you are putting restrictions on your child. Now, your child probably won't be drinking wine, but he's also allowed to have grape products. And, okay, so he lets his hair grow. But in addition to that, as we spoke about before, at the very end of being a Nazir, the offerings are brought, and one has to shave your head completely bald. That is one of the requirements that's done at the end of being a Nazir. And on this, it's explained that to know that a child has to do that is something which is actually embarrassing and disgraceful. The fact that you will have your child shave his head bald, and maybe he has a nice haircut, he doesn't want to do that, he wants to fit in with his friends. So therefore, a relative can step up and say, this is how you're educating your child, this is unacceptable. And this is an unbelievable thing, especially nowadays, in which sometimes, even though we're not the parent, but we sometimes will see the way that people are educating our youth, and we know it's not healthy. It could be detrimental to the growth and development, teaching little children in kindergarten things that are not developmentally appropriate. And of course, a parent has the right to choose how they want to educate, but a lot of times it's other people that are instilling this, and therefore there are times in which we should protest.